So my project is on workplace instant messaging since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. And although the title resonates instant messaging, the premises behind this project stems from informal interactions in the workplace. So I have a question for you. When you were working in the same physical environment as others, would you ever chat with your colleagues spontaneously, say passing them in the corridor or seeing them down in the tea room? Could I have a raise of hands if you answered yes to this? So this is what researchers since around 1939 have referred to as informal interactions in the workplace, describing them as spontaneous, brief, frequent, casual, and random conversations that occur between one person or more in the same physical environment. Once viewed as noisy and distracting, most recent research suggests the role of informal interactions is beneficial to workplace, saying it sparks creativity, social networks, deep cultural connections, and team collaborations. But what happens to informal interactions when we are no longer working in the same physical space as one another? Well, this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what unfolded during the COVID-19 pandemic, when many office workers were forced to work from home and interact with colleagues via telecommunications or digital online platforms. So since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, in my workplace, I saw a rise in colleagues using instant messaging. And as more people started using it, it became a more acceptable mode of communication to use at work. With that, the way we spoke to each other in chat became much more casual and spontaneous compared to previously scripted emails. And conversations within the group chat would move in and out of social and work-orientated topics. And this made me curious about the use of instant messaging in other workplaces. Had it changed since the onset of COVID-19? And was it providing a place for colleagues to engage in informal interactions? Wang et al. And other scholars describe how new communicative norms and challenges, consequential of COVID-19, urged people to learn new skills. The Hayes Salary Guide Survey and Future Forum Global Pulse Survey found since COVID-19, workers now wanted and expected more flexibility in both where and when they work, which prompts a blend of online communications to connect with others. Starting on a literature review, Trommer's research, Let's Have a Virtual Coffee, over how MS Teams encourages informal interactions between peers, provided a valuable resource into interactions in the online workspace. Trommer conducted interviews with staff in a company who had shifted to remote work during the COVID-19 pandemic. These interviews looked at informal interactions in MS Teams, and results indicated that environmental settings, team culture, and familiarity were vital in encouraging informal interactions. MS Teams' affordances and constraints determined the environmental settings, and most interviewees said that informal interactions within the team worked better when it was encouraged and modelled by management, and the tools allowed them to do so. And many commented that being familiar with colleagues on a personal and professional level helped with creating a more natural, less forced conversation, making it easier to engage in spontaneous conversations. Croot et al. Say that informal interactions are crucial for team collaboration and performance, saying that without informal communication, many collaborations would undoubtedly not occur and others would break up before becoming successful. Hay, a lecturer in New Zealand, goes on to claim that serendipity, improvisation, open agendas, and freedom to take risks are all conducive to creativity, which can be provided in informal interactions. Haynes says informal interactions need to be a balance of interaction and privacy, purporting that those in enclosed office spaces were more productive because of privacy and limited distractions, while those in open plan spaces were more productive because of their access to informal meeting spaces. Isaacs et al. Examined instant messaging conversations and found that there were two styles of users. One who liked to use a range of collaborative activities and complex work topics with many short messages in a short period of time, often threading together. And the other type of user would send short single-purpose conversations, often to schedule interactions in another medium. Cho et al. State instant messaging develops and improves working relationships by breaking down organizational boundaries within departments and between departments and outside of the organization. Tang and Bradshaw say that co-presence contributes to positivity and satisfaction in the choice of medium. In my research, I aim to fill the literature gap by comparing experiences before and since COVID-19. I will do this by examining the reasons people are using workplace instant messaging and the social and psychological needs these reasons are fulfilling, and subsequently what consequences are occurring. Therefore, my research question is, what can Twitter users tell us about the reasons they are using instant messaging in the workplace? Has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted the use of instant messaging? What social and psychological needs are being fulfilled? And what are the consequences? To find out the answers to these questions, I thematically coded tweets involving discussions around workplace instant messaging. To understand the social and psychological needs and consequences, themes are drawn from the uses and gratifications theory, which Katz et al. Used to look at consumers of media to explain social and psychological origins, needs, expectations, differential patterns of engagement, gratifications, and other consequences. This theory existed prior to the digital era and was originally designed to understand why people consumed analog media. Since then, it has become useful in explaining the complex reasons users engage with social media and instant messaging. So with the methodology, 1900 tweets were collected through the Twitter Explore page by searching for tweets that included keywords around the topic of workplace instant messaging over the last 4 years. This resulted in tweets 2 years prior to and 2 years since the COVID-19 pandemic. Kimmins et al. Say Twitter data provides opportunities for diverse perspectives that can be publicly accessed, which differs from other platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, where posts are usually shown to the poster's followers within the platform. With Twitter, I could go to the public webpage, tap in my search query, and gather short public dialogue, which according to Reyes et al. Is ideal for a thematic analysis. For the thematic analysis, I manually coded tweets in Qualtrics Text IQ to unravel, contextualize meaning, and gauge significance. These were themes derived by the uses and gratification theory's core functions, which assist in answering what social and psychological needs are being fulfilled, with automated sentiment from Qualtrics assisting in answering what consequences occurred. Finally, the thematic analysis nominal data and sentiment was fed back into the temporal data in Tableau to provide a trends analysis and see what changes and patterns occurred. Before we move on to some of the very early findings, I just wanted to note that I am still going through the thematic coding process, and some of these themes will undergo further development. So let's look at the overall picture of the percentage of tweets concerning workplace instant messaging over the last 4 years. After manually coding about 1,500 tweets, this line graph indicates the increase of those tweets over the period of time, 2 years prior and 2 years since COVID-19. We can also see the highest peak occurs in March 2020, which also marks the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, when many workers needed to work from home. Given this result, we can see that although the conversation was steadily on the incline, there were some large peaks that occur in that shaded area, indicating that the COVID-19 pandemic has in fact impacted the use of instant messaging in the workplace. Looking at a few of the tweets, we can start to see what kinds of conversations were emerging. Organised into themes under two main categories, uses and effects. Under uses, we start to see tweets that indicate instant messaging in the workplace is being used to deliver kudos and pastoral care to others. Also, sending messages after hours has increased over time. And another theme on the rise was using instant messaging in the workplace to harass or send toxic, inappropriate messages. Under the main theme effects, to give you an example of this categorization, some tweets indicated the need for work and personal life boundaries. Say, for instance, silencing notifications after hours. This also leads into another theme that started to emerge, with tweets indicating that people were finding workplace messaging intrusive and distracting. So if we take a closer look at the top 5 themes under the uses category prior to COVID-19, we can see conversations were more focused on assistive technology and using instant messaging for informal interactions. However, since COVID-19, there has been an increase in conversations around using it for kudos and pastoral care, sending messages after hours, organisations sending out bulk alerts to workers, and workers messaging one another to notify or remind each other about something. Also, harassing and toxic messaging was increased. Switching to another view of the sentiment around these themes, we can start to gauge which themes in the uses category are having positive and negative effects. And we can start to dig deeper into those tweets concerning that particular sentiment through Tableau. So we can see some of the social and psychological needs that are being fulfilled in the workplace, instant messaging, such as kudos and pastoral care, are giving the receivers a sense of appreciation and support, something that those working from home value. Also, sending messages after hours was providing people with a way to get someone's attention outside of their usual work time. And it appears that although people were finished work, they were still checking through their work messages. This may have been increased due to the proliferation of remote work during COVID-19, where work and personal life became somewhat blurred. And the increased dialogue around harassing and toxic messages raises concerns for the victims. However, we will see shortly how surveillance and security comes into it. So looking at the top 5 themes under the effects category, we can see substantial consequences of instant messaging in the workplace highlighted, with the tree map indicating that prior to COVID-19, tweets included discussions about a generational difference in misinterpretations and mistakes happening. However, since COVID-19, these two topics were no longer a hot talking point and are replaced by discussions around surveillance, transparency, and privacy and security. So as noted in the previous slide, surveillance and security could be an important topic in addressing harassing and toxic messaging, having workers message each other in more open forums, or perhaps providing a person's identity and evidence of inappropriate behaviour. What remains in both time periods is the conversations around work-life boundaries, instant messaging being intrusive and distracting, and the workplace language and etiquette being altered. In conclusion, my early findings suggest that Twitter users can tell us about the reasons that they are using instant messaging in the workplace. Moving forward with my research, I would like to continue coding themes for the remaining uncoded tweets and create a code book to describe the way the qualitative data has been interpreted. Ideally, if I had the time and resources, I would use multiple coders to reduce bias. However, overall, I am happy with how the research is going. To finish it off, I would like to leave you with this well-pondered question inspired by Marshall McLuhan's quote: "Do we shape our tools or do the tools shape us?" Thank you so much for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.